Welcome to the friendliest campus in the South.
Shotgun, Blanchard, one back set, rolls right, pressure coming, throws, Middleton, go!
To the gym of the hills.
He lifts it to left. That one's pretty well hit. Hall on the run. That ball is gone.
Home of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
Over the day, over the Hawks. He fires up at the buzzer and drains the three. Good defense by Cunningham. Gregory releases away. Pulls up. He checks.
This is your podcast for JSU Sports.
High fly ball, center field. It is back. It's out of here.
With your hosts, Brandon Owens and Cody Hooks. This is Cocky Nation.
What is going on, Cocky Nation? This is another great episode. It's actually the last episode for the December, first part of our season. Episode 12. Wow, at 12 episodes already. It's kind of weird. But this is the last episode for this time as we are getting closer to the holiday time. And so Brandon and I obviously will be spending time with our families, as all of us should be, whether it be biological or your friend's family. That is a-okay. But we will be taking that time off. But we're so glad that you have come to listen to us again today. I apologize ahead of time that I sound like I am a 20-year-old, 20 years long smoker, but I am a wrestling coach, so I get the same experience with the voice. But it's your favorite hosts, Cody and Brandon, talking about everything, all things Cocky Nation. We have a couple things that we're going to talk about tonight. Some things JSU, some things JSU adjacent. So we're going to talk about a lot more with basketball. We are going to mention some things with the playoffs for football, just to kind of highlight a couple things. But we aren't going to dive too much into it, because not that we don't love any of the teams, but it's not JSU. So, but let's go ahead.
But we are still a part of the FCS Fans Nation Network, so
yes, we have to continue to reiterate that because, again, we want to be able to have access to this platform beyond.
Which we will. That was some good news that we received.
We did. I totally forgot about that because Brandon sent me that screenshot, and they basically were just like, "We love you guys. Like, you're not going anywhere." And I was like, "Great. Let's not piss anyone off." So, if you're listening,
at least for the rest of the year.
Yes. So that's what we're hoping. But a lot of great things. This is a great season in the time of the year, because it's Christmas coming up, the new year is starting. That means new beginnings, a time of giving, a time of family, and a time of getting togetherness. But unfortunately, it does not always be a time of giving. It can also be a time of sadness, which leads us into the first topic of tonight, where last week, Jacksonville State, as you probably remember, traveled to the great state of Utah to face Utah, the Utes, in a what we would consider to be a pretty big game, because, again, we are making that jump to the FBS soon. But Jacksonville State did end up losing the game 99-58. Now, I will like to take a moment and point out something, and that is, if you look at the score for the JSU Alabama game and the JSU Utah game, we lost worst Alabama, and we actually made some improvement when we played against Utah. Now, that is just my first thought, but I need to stop talking because I've been going on for 4 minutes and 32 seconds now. So, Brandon, cut in. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Well, so the first thing that I noticed looking at the stats is we did not contain their three-point shooting. They made 16 threes out of 28, almost a 60% rate. So that was the biggest jab to the heart. they they almost not almost, they out rebounded us quite a bit, had way more assists. What hurt us was turnovers. They committed more fouls. I mean, overall, like, this is pretty standard for JSU. Except the three. The 3-point percentage for us is not good.
Yeah.
9 out
I
of
mean,
20. No. Just
I mean, the fact that we were less than 50% is kind of what sucks, and I mean, again, it could always be worse. We did worse when we faced Alabama. Now, granted, Alabama and Utah is a complete and total difference, but
comparing apples to oranges.
comparing apples to oranges, but at the same time, Utah was ranked and is currently ranked second in the Pac-12. They are 9-2, so you got to take what you get, and we just weren't all there. And I guess that's the best way I can probably put it. Jackson and Potter stepped up pretty much most of the game. King didn't really do much as far as point wise. He did play a lot of guard, but we weren't all there, and it did drop us down to 13th in the ASUN, which is not a fun number
At the time.
We are still currently ranked 13th in the ASUN. Based on
not after tonight's game.
Okay, so we'll probably shift up at least one, maybe two. But speaking of tonight's game, which is fun because we were going to talk about this and predict it, but we had some things come up last night. We couldn't record. So if you're listening to this, we were supposed to record on Tuesday. It's Wednesday now. And so literally as we were getting ready to record this, the game ended on just right before we started to decide to record this. So JSU did play tonight, and they did beat Reinhardt 97-63. Again, an improvement as far as looking at what we did versus Utah. But again, it is Reinhardt.
It's an NAIA school.
Yeah, I can't speak too much about it. I mean, heck, when I pulled it up, like on the score app, it doesn't even have their record. So,
I was very impressed with the first half. I mean, we led 61-20 at half. And then you can definitely tell with the second half score. I mean, Reinhardt almost led us by 10 in just the second half alone, which wasn't enough to put them ahead. But you can definitely tell Ray Harper played more of his bench in the second half.
And again, King looked a lot better in this game as well. He had about 25 points, I think is what it is. So overall, an improvement, but again, it's an NAIA school, so it's good, but it's like oh god, what's that meme? It's like the meme where Papa John's or Domino's is one of them. Like, it's like the guy, he wins the Olympic medal and he's like freaking out and he's like shooting champagne everywhere, but he's like ranked 13th or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, you won, but did you really?
You beat a team you should have beat by as much as you beat them.
Exactly. And even then, if you argued, it should have been more. But again, you take what you get.
But I mean, this begs the question, because we're hovering around 500. in like just in our out of conference alone. This
Mhm.
begs the question, like, are we going to be able to be successful in the ASUN like we were last year? Like it's starting to raise that question. Like, is the ASUN a better conference than last year out of all the D1 conferences, or are they worse
Well,
than last year? So
I
like,
would say so. I would say what it reminds me a lot of,
but then
and
again, our out of conference is a lot tougher this year.
very true. But like what this really kind of reminds me of is okay. So, and I don't know if you would agree with me on this. So, from 2015 until 20, so starting in 2015, Jacksonville State football was dominating as far as like OVC play.
Correct.
But then as you got into that 2018 season, the 2019 season, 2020, we started to have a little bit of a decline. We would lose
Mm-hmm.
some of those games where you would say, "Oh, well, we should have won that game." Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so then it begged the question: did the OVC get better, or did specific teams get better? So I think that's what we're facing here. You know, I I don't want to go ahead and say JSU is not going to do good in the ASUN
Yeah,
this
because
year.
we haven't played an ASUN school yet. Like
Right.
nobody in the ASUN has played each other yet, so we have no idea how. Like, take Queens for example. This is their first year in D1, and they're
Right.
9-2 right now.
Right. And
Like, they
so,
are dominating right now. Now, granted, they are playing a few like NAIA and D2 schools on their schedule, but there's some D1 schools that were obviously favored in the game, and Queens ended up beating them.
right. Well, and I think what it comes down to is JSU not good anymore, or was JSU just playing the right people where it was helping us out to look better? Because I don't want to say that JSU's bad. I don't think we're bad. I
Mm-mm.
think I think that, and I've said this before on this podcast. You don't know how good you are until you start playing people that are better than you. You
Mhm.
know, I see the same thing as a wrestling coach. You know, I see kids, um, you know, that go up against people in their own team, knowing that they can whoop them, but then when they get into a tournament, they're getting squashed.
Right.
And so it's taking the ability and humility to say, okay, yes, in some forms, in some categories, I am good, but I am not great,
Right.
but I can be. And so I think that's kind of where we're at right now, which is not bad because we need that. We need to have that mentality, especially with us moving up into real D1 play in the FBS, where it's pivotal to start winning those types of
Mhm.
games. And so that's kind of how again, it's a full learning experience is where I'm kind of just sitting with it.
Mhm.
But do you have any other final thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to finishing out the out of conference portion of our schedule this month
Mm-hmm.
and starting conference play 2 days before New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of those out of conference plays, we do only have a handful left. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at those. So the next games that we have for the rest of the year, and then we'll talk about what we have after, which starts our ASUN play.
Mhm.
So on December 17th, which is Saturday, JSU will be facing Little Rock at 1 p.m. Okay. Um, December 21st, we will have another game against South Alabama.
Mhm.
Just making sure. South Alabama, 1 p.m. December 27th, we play Georgia Southwestern. Fun
D2
name.
school.
D2 school. Well, it's because I always think like Georgia Southern. So Georgia Southwestern, 6
Yep.
p.m.
And that's our
then
last out of conference before we
and
start
that
ASUN play.
right. And so we'll get into predictions later, but I will go ahead and say this. I see all but one of these being no problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you and I both agree on which one will probably be a struggle.
1, 2, 3.
South Alabama.
Alabama.
Only because like we have a common opponent in Alabama, and
Right.
South Alabama only lost by 10 to Alabama, who is currently ranked number 4 in the nation. So
Congratulations, Bama. You've had some really good games this year. I'm not even gonna lie. But Little Rock, I'm not wowed. I'm not wowed by them.
they're in the
and
OVC.
They're in the
Which
OVC.
doesn't have Belmont or Murray State anymore. So
Yep.
I mean,
So I'm not too worried about them. So we'll beat Little Rock. I'm not too worried about that. We can figure out scores later. South Alabama can be won if we play smart.
if we are on our A game,
But I wouldn't be shocked if we end up losing.
no,
That's where I will leave that. And then Georgia Southwestern D2 school, done.
Should
Easy.
win. Should
Easy.
win.
So those 3 games are our last out of conference games. Now, after that, December 30th, starting the new year, and starting the new year right, please, for the love of God, we will start
If
our
you lose to this team.
we will start our in conference games starting with Tuna. We will be facing them on the 30th of December, and that game will be at 6 p.m. And then we will celebrate New Year's. We'll come back on the 2nd, which is a Monday, and we will be facing Jacksonville.
I was about to say, better read that acronym correctly.
Sorry. I had an email come through my phone. So we will be facing Jacksonville, Florida, at Jacksonville. Okay.
Battle for the Ville.
Who's the better Jacksonville? And then January 5th, we will be playing at Liberty. And then January 7th, we will be facing Bellarmine. Remember how I used to say Bellarmine wrong?
Belmarine.
Belmarine or Bellamarine or something like that. And, I have no regrets about it either. So, but regardless.
I mean, honestly, taking a look at those first few ASUN games, that's a tough stretch. You start off with your rival. You play the team that knocked you out of the ASUN tournament in the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
You play one of the better ASUN teams. And then you play who was arguably our biggest rival in the Western Division last year.
Mm-hmm. See, if I had to look at it, I would say dub if we play smart. L.
Yeah, sadly. But we do get Liberty at home this year, so we have a home and home with them.
Which, again, when that game does happen, we do need to show up and show out.
I'm going to Jacksonville for that game.
I know, right? So, but I'm excited for these games. I think this is a good way to start us off. It can also be argued as a bad way to start off if we don't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I think that's where I will leave it. Brandon, any final thoughts on that one?
Nope. I mean, we basically discussed it on along the way. So I mean, I'm ready to jump to the next segment if you are.
All right. So so that's really all we have for basketball. We will come back and we'll do our predictions before we end the show or end the episode. But we do want to kind of wrap up on the last couple of things with the FCS football playoffs. So we do only have 2 more games until we are officially with the FCS Championship, which is going to be on January 8th. Brandon will be traveling for that game. And yes, he's already rubbed it in my face. I wish I could go, but duty calls. It's that things change when you get married. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. But
don't remind me.
Yeah, it's coming.
Remind me.
It's coming. So on Friday, I almost said January. Friday, December 16th at 6:00, Incarnate Word will be facing off against North Dakota State. And then on Saturday, on the 17th at 3 p.m., which I'm hoping to capture that game because I think it's going to be the better out of the two. South Dakota State and Montana State will be facing off against each other. Now, Brandon and I did kind of talk a little bit about this before we got started with the episode, just to kind of get our thoughts together. And I think he and I are both wanting the same thing. Maybe I misheard him, but I think it'd be a really, really fun change up. So I think we're both in agreement that we want to see Montana State and Incarnate Word.
Now, I want that. That's not who I'm picking. That's what I want.
That's what we want. I would not be completely shocked if this ends up becoming a battle for the marker part 2.
Which, if it is, I am so excited for that championship game.
That entire stadium will be completely packed and full of blue and yellow.
And the smell of booze.
And so I'm excited. I think it's going to be I think if anyone's going to pull off the upset against South Dakota State or North Dakota State, I think don't sleep on Incarnate Word. Now, most people, when I said who's going to pull off the upset, probably each and every one of you that was listening was probably like, Montana State. I mean, they were in the playoff. They were in playoffs last year. They made it to the championship game last year. Listen to me carefully. If that freaking game turns back into what it was last year, Montana State and North Dakota State, and Montana State loses this game again, just put a bag over your heads, guys. I'm sorry. And I hear all the Bobcat fans screaming at me right now. Do we have anybody on the FCS Fan Nation that regulates the podcast? That's Montana State. I can't remember.
No.
Good.
No.
So then I can just go off now. I'm not going to go off on North Dakota State because hi, I'm Matt.
Hi, Podfather.
Hi, Podfather. So I'm not going to do that. So it's not. But if anyone's gonna, if I had to see what I want to see happen, it's Incarnate Word and Montana State, or even South Dakota State. I think Incarnate Word has shown the progress in the season and in the playoffs. I mean, pulling off that upset against Sacramento State was very, very good for them. So you never know. I'm just saying don't sleep on them. I would be fine with them facing either team, South Dakota State or Montana State. But if you wanted to see a change up, I would go with Montana State because I know that if Montana State ends up winning against South Dakota State, you'll see a lot of Bobcat fans come down. Now, as far as views go and how that's all going to be set up, if that was really how the game would be set up, Brandon and I agreed it just wouldn't be good for the views, but you never know. What are your thoughts?
Looking at the spreads, there's a lot of interesting spreads. Let's start with the South Dakota State Montana State spread. South Dakota State is favored by 6, or at least when I checked it yesterday, they were still favored by 6. And the total for over and under on total points scored in the game was at 58. The spread has actually gone down to 5.5, and the total and under has gone up to 58.5. I'm still going to be taking the over. Montana State is just playing on fire right now, and not saying South Dakota State is not playing fire. I mean, they have been playing on a whole nother level than the rest of the FCS all season long. Especially in their tight end wide receiver area. They have the Yankee twins and Tucker Craft. I had to think of the name for a little bit. They have the Yankee twins and Tucker Craft, who were major what's the word I'm looking for? Major targets for Gronowski. I believe that's their quarterback. I swear, if I'm getting this correct, splitting hairs, Brendan and all of them are going to be so proud of me.
Well,
yes, I am so correct. So yeah, those three were major targets for Gronowski, and then Isaiah Davis had a monster game against Holy Cross. Holy Cross did do a very good job of containing South Dakota State for a majority of the game until about the last 5 minutes, and then South Dakota State just ran away with it, like a lot of people thought was going to happen. But because of that struggle, I'm still going to pick South Dakota State. But with how well Montana State played against William and Mary, absolutely dominating them 55-7, I'm going to pick Montana State to cover, and I am taking the over on total points.
I think I would probably have to agree with you on that one. Overall, I just, with how South Dakota State has just played this season, I just don't see it being. It'll be a solid game. I think out of the two of them, this will be the better game out of the two. And they're playing in South Dakota, so I just see it going in the favor of the Jackrabbits. I think I'm going to take the over as well. And then
this game will also be on ESPN2 on Saturday.
Yes. And again, on the other side, I'm going to pull for the underdog. I think I'm going to pull out for Incarnate Word. Yes, I know North Dakota State is playing in North Dakota. So they do have the home field advantage, but God, what would it be funny if that was just like a blowout for North Dakota?
It's not going to. It's not going to be a blowout.
What are the odds if something like that just happened? I'm not speaking into existence. I'm just saying, God, wouldn't it be interesting, right, Matt? Just Matt, we love you. I feel like I have to obligatory choose North Dakota just to keep everybody happy. But hey,
no, pick Incarnate Word if you want to.
Yeah, I'm picking Incarnate Word. Just pull for the underdog.
Which your matchup would be very fun to watch in Frisco.
Right. I mean, Incarnate Word in South Dakota. I think it should just be a fun game. So,
I, on the other hand, I'm not picking Incarnate Word no matter how much I want to pick Incarnate Word. I think Lindsey Scott Jr. has had a fantastic season. He is, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the FCS this year. I mean, his stats are just unbelievable. He is a Walter Payton favorite, which is the FCS version, or the FCS's version of the Heisman Trophy. So he's a definite favorite among a lot of people in the FCS, and I agree. I think he should win. I think it's either going to be one of two things. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think Lindsey Scott is going to keep Incarnate Word close in this game. But I think NDSU is going, like, their defense is just going to be stout against Incarnate Word. But Incarnate Word's offense is also really electric with that air raid. And Lindsey Scott Jr. can run the ball as well, as we saw against Sac State. So I think those are gonna even themselves out in a way, but I think the defense, I'm very big on defense wins championships. I think that's going to play in NDSU's favor this go round. It can go one of two ways. Either UIW keeps it somewhat close, or they get into a shootout and Incarnate Word wins. With the conference they with the conference they are a member of. Somebody said it on the Big Boy podcast. Southland is built to handle shootouts. So if this gets into a shootout, I would bet money on Incarnate Word. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think NDSU is going to keep a comfortable lead, and Incarnate Word is just going to be that gnat that just keeps flying around your head and you keep swatting at it. The spread has actually gone up from 9. It's up to 9.5, and the over under has actually gone up, I believe, 1.5 because I think it was at 70 yesterday. I am going to take the under on the total points. And I'm going to also take NDSU to cover. I think NDSU wins by 10, which is going to be a successful game for Incarnate Word, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to be like, but they didn't beat NDSU. Well, yeah, look at the history of when NDSU plays teams from these outer conferences, meaning conferences other than the Big Sky and CAA and Missouri Valley. And even then, sometimes they are blowout wins.
Right.
So, I mean, I would call a 10-point loss a win for Incarnate Word, in my opinion. But I think your national championship is going to end up being the Dakota Marker Part 2.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we're going to call it on those. We are going to wrap this up with a cocky prediction for.
Well, we're not recording until after Frisco, so why don't you just go ahead and pick your champion from your results?
South Dakota.
South Dakota?
South
Hey,
Dakota
at least
State.
we got the same champion. I have South Dakota winning again as well, 31-24.
Most definitely. I see South Dakota State. I mean, they've been dominant this year. The only team that I feel like that would have had another decent chance to make it into the national championship other than South Dakota State and the teams that did is obviously JSU, but we're not going down that road. We were
no, we would not have made it to the championship game.
I think we'd make it pretty far.
We would have made it. I don't even think we would have played semis just because of who we would have most likely gotten, because we would have had to go through NDSU.
I don't know. You know, we love playing the game of hypotheticals, but I think that is it. Before we say, you know, our whole spiel, we do want to just take a moment and just say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy Yule, whatever you decide to celebrate this holiday season. The biggest thing that we ask for you guys is to just take time, celebrate with your families, enjoy the time off, remember the good times, catch some football, catch some basketball, and ultimately, we love each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. You're
forgetting something.
What am I forgetting?
We still have one more segment to do.
What? Hold on. Sweet Jesus. Cocky prediction. I tried to do cocky predictions.
What?
Yeah.
We did it for the playoffs, but we haven't done it for basketball yet.
I was trying to, and then you kind of like cut me off because you're like, "Oh yeah, give me your thing for
It sounded like my bad. It sounded like you were trying to
no.
end the show. I was like, dude, we
Oh
have
my
another
God.
segment.
Well, I was trying to end the show because I thought we had already covered all that, but apparently we didn't. So, real quick, let's go through these cocky predictions real quick. Little Rock, Brandon, what you got?
What is
Don't
Little
think, just do.
Rocks? No,
Don't think, just do.
no.
Don't think, just do. Shoot
Hold
now, ask
on.
questions later.
Nope. You know how I am.
JSU winning by 20. Done. There you go. That's how you do it.
Where is Little Rock?
Actually, JSU by 15. I'm going to call that.
Yeah,
JSU.
I got JSU by actually 30.
Okay. JSU by 15 for me. Okay. So JSU's got the dub. South Alabama, I am going to say JSU wins this by 3.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I think South Alabama scores a last like a buzzer beater.
Okay.
So I think South Alabama narrowly escapes an upset against Jacksonville State.
All right. Georgia Southwestern, I'm going to
JSU. Let's not even discuss a score.
Okay. All right. So, with that being said, guys, I'm kidding. I just want to see what he would do. UNA, JSU all the way by 15.
It's at UNA. I think this is actually going to be a close game. I'm going to say JSU narrowly escapes UNA in Florence.
Okay. JSU loses against Jacksonville by 6.
I'm actually going to pick JSU to win this one.
God, we always have to flip. By 4. Okay. JSU against Bellarmine. I'm picking JSU, and I'm gonna say by 5.
It's at home. Students should be back in Jacksonville at that point.
Yes.
I'm gonna say JSU by 2 for that one, and then you skip Liberty.
Oh, JSU loses by 20. I'm gonna make it closer. JSU loses by 10.
It's at Liberty, 6-4. I'm gonna say Liberty wins by 1.
All right. Well, again, now we are officially gonna close this up, guys. Again, we just want to wish you guys a happy holidays. Thank you for listening. Thank you for keeping track with us during season 4. We're halfway there. We still got a lot to do. We still got a lot going on. Baseball season is going to be around the corner.
In 2 months. 2 months.
2 months.
Baseball and softball.
So we're excited for that. And of course, as we get closer, we're going to talk a lot about what's coming up in the future with JSU football as we get closer to the spring season and the off season. So be on the lookout for that type of information.
Mm-hmm.
Again, guys,
hopefully we have some CUSA news in
that would be nice.
Next couple of months. Hopefully they release their conference schedule.
For real. I would be excited to finally get that. But guys, thank you for everything.
We know the teams we're playing. I just need to know the dates.
Right. The only one that we know is in November, and Brandon and I will be there. So, but again, thank you for everything. Again, if you're not following us on our social media platforms, what are you doing with your life? Please go follow them, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Give us a shout out, give us a listen, tell your friends, tell your family, tell that random person that's staying in your dorm room that you don't really know to listen to us as well, because it helps us and it grows our community. Speaking of community, listen to the FCS Fan Nation podcast, especially those that talk about the FCS as a whole, because so much has happened, so much is changing. There's teams coming and going, teams moving up, teams leaving. It is an absolute changer. We love each and every person in our FCS Fan Nation group, especially Matt. We love you, Matt.
Yeah,
Matt.
check out some of the podcasts on our network that
Mhm.
specifically focus on a singular team like ours.
Yeah.
My favorite outside of, I'm not going to be biased towards ours. But my favorite is Splitting Hairs. Like, listening to the A team and B team each week is phenomenal. I love that podcast.
Mm-hmm. I definitely recommend that one as well. But again, just take that time and again, enjoy the holiday break. If you are in an area that it's going to snow, enjoy your white Christmas. I will be enjoying the sunny, warm weather from
Oh,
Orlando.
hush.
But again, we love you guys. Go Gamecocks and fear the beak.